Welcome to the Still Curtain podcast, powered by StillCurtain.com. It's Sunday, December 28th, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are 9-7, predictably, after a 13-6 loss to the Cleveland Browns in Week 17 to set up a Week 18 matchup with the Ravens with the AFC North Division title on the line. I'm Josh Yourish. Today, I will be flying solo for the early part of the podcast. No Mark Powell with us for this one. I missed last week. Mark's missing this week, but we will have Shayne Kubas of StillCurtain.com hopping on at some point throughout the show. So let's get right into it. Obviously, your interactions in the chat are always appreciated, and this is a good one to let out your frustrations. So let's hear it in the chat. Steelers Freak. Hear a lot in the chat. Amazed but not surprised. How could you be surprised? The Steelers faltering in a really big spot, a game they absolutely should win. They have now lost 4 straight at Cleveland, which is incredibly disappointing. This feels hot takey and whatnot, but we'll kind of start with it because it's almost impossible to not acknowledge early on in the show. It really felt like Aaron Rodgers was very concerned about not giving Myles Garrett the all-time sack record. Obviously, Garrett entered the day 1 sack away from setting the all-time single-season sack record. Rodgers was very aware of that fact, and I thought very gun-shy in the pocket, really wanted to get the ball out of his hands quickly. The Browns, I believe, only finished with 1 sack of Rodgers on the day, but functionally had many more because of a lot of negative plays. Rodgers just kind of flinging the ball out of his hand any chance he got. And it led to, there was one to Connor Hayward, rather. He was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Jonnu Smith was tackled behind the line of scrimmage one time. Maybe 2 sacks because there was the strip sack that ended up in the hands of Jonnu Smith. There were checkdowns to Jonnu Smith, checkdowns all over the place. And some of that, of course, is no DK Metcalf in this game. He was serving the first of his 2-game suspension for throwing a punch at a fan last week in the Steelers' win over the Detroit Lions. He was not ejected from that game. The officials did not see it, but was served a 2-game suspension by the league. So he'll miss next week as well against the Ravens. We'll get to that, obviously, once Shayne comes on, talking about that matchup that feels all too inevitable, that the Steelers and Ravens were going to decide the division in Week 18 in that final game in Pittsburgh. Without DK, the Steelers' passing game, and without Calvin Austin as well, who was out of this game with an injury, the Steelers' passing game just doesn't have a gravitational force in any way. It doesn't help that Darnell Washington left this game with a forearm injury. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to give a ton of targets to, but he was a big part of this game plan in a game when you assume you're going to have to run the ball a lot, and in a game when you need somebody who can turn a check down into a 6-yard gain instead of a 1-yard loss or something like that, which Jonnu Smith was all too happy to do after Darnell Washington went out. And to Nat Attack in the chat, and the kind of the point I'm getting to, if we had DK, would it have made a difference though? I actually think yes, in a huge way. This is a good Browns defense. It's a Jim Schwartz defense that's going to play a wide 9 along the defensive line, 4 down rushers. You saw Garrett getting out incredibly wide splits today because, especially on pass rushing downs, they didn't really have a fear of the Steelers gashing them on the inside, and that worked out really well for the Browns defensively. But Schwartz, he's going to play quickly. He's going to have a defense that's not all that complex. And he just wants his players to trigger quickly from that, second level or third level to make tackles. They play a lot of single high coverage and a lot of man across the board. Really today, it was man coverage across the board, 1 safety deep. Let's load the box up. We're going to stop the run. We're going to tackle the screen game really well, which they did an excellent job of. A Jim Schwartz team is not one you want to throw a bunch of screens and swing passes to, because they just see ball, they trigger, and they tackle downhill. That's why that offense or defense in particular, one of the reasons why that defense in particular has given Kyle Shanahan's and other play callers like that trouble in the past, because misdirection, yes, you can get them with it because they do trigger so quickly, but they'll also just blow plays up. And we saw that a lot today. Without DK, there's no gravitational force that's pulling that safety one way, right? Like that's forcing them to play a little bit more too high, which opens up the middle of the field. Like they're not playing any middle field open coverages. How do you get the ball to Freiermuth? We saw it late in the game when the Browns realized they needed to play a little prevent. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that Freiermuth's biggest plays of the game both came in 2-minute drills, because in those situations, the Browns were playing more too high safety, more zone coverage, and more, with too high safeties, split field safeties, the middle of the field is going to be more open. And so that allows Freiermuth to win on seams, on benders, and things like that. That's really his bread and butter in the passing game. You needed to feature Freiermuth today because he's probably your best pass catcher with everybody out. So I don't think it's a coincidence. And you would get more of those looks if DK was out there, because they would want to bracket things. They would want to roll coverage in his direction. They would want to, use that gravity, or DK has that gravity. And also DK can win one-on-one. We've talked a lot this season, if you've listened to the show, about how DK is not George Pickens. He is not this jump ball winner on fades and go balls, which Rodgers would have loved to try today. He tried quite a bit with MVS, especially on the final possession of the game. But he can win those, and he gives you a much better chance to take advantage on deep shots. We saw him hit a lot of those. Rodgers hit a lot of those deep shots to him when the Steelers beat the Ravens a few weeks ago. So I do think that would have made a big difference if DK had played. I think the Steelers win this game if DK had played. It's hard to say that like DK is a 7-point player. Like, it doesn't move the spread that significantly. But for a team that has no other wide receiver threats, like credible threats on the outside, I definitely think that he makes a massive difference. We'll just keep going in the chat. Like I love the questions and everything early on. Jessica Picola, is there anything Arthur Smith should have done differently? I think you're playing with one hand tied behind your back pretty substantially with DK out. But obviously, there's chances to second guess. On second watch, that's a bit of a cop-out. On second watch, I would like to see, what they were getting to in the run game and whatnot. I thought they did a lot of nice stuff in the run game. I thought Arthur Smith has done a good job leveraging Troy Fautanu's athleticism in recent weeks and in different types of runs. We saw against the Lions, the Steelers started to introduce some counter runs, and today they did some different stuff with Fautanu, like letting him get outside, and he's a super athletic tackle. So I think they were using that to their advantage, especially with a banged up offensive line on the left side where you're starting Dylan Cook and, rotating Spencer Anderson and Andrus Peat. I would have liked to see them stick with the run game more. That's hard to do when you're getting so many stacked boxes. And Rodgers has 21 years of NFL football experience telling him, if I'm getting single high like this, I got to take my shots. I got to get the ball out of my hands, and I can win these one-on-ones. They just weren't there today. So I think Rodgers has a lot of autonomy at the line of scrimmage. So I've had trouble this year when the Steelers have had offensive struggles, being able to parse out like what amount of blame is to Rodgers, what amount of blame is to Arthur Smith. I don't think Arthur Smith called like an impeccable game today, but I do think more of the issues were a lack of DK, but then Rodgers not doing much with that. I really think Rodgers did a poor job of managing the pocket today. I thought he had happy feet. Like the last couple games when he's played a lot better, we've seen a Rodgers that is calm in the pocket, that's buying a little, he buys an extra second. He's not creating outside of structure the way he has in the past, but he'll buy an extra second. He'll stay a little calmer. He'll be willing to take a hit a little bit to, kind of deliver a throw over the middle of the field. That becomes especially important in a game where you don't have wide receivers, because those guys need an extra beat to get open against man coverage. And the Browns have good man cover corners. Like I thought Denzel Ward was excellent today, even outside of the final 3 plays of the game, which despicable decision-making there by Smith and Rodgers to call those 3 straight fades to MVS. And we should probably discuss that now. that's another instance where I just ascribe all of that blame to Rodgers. Like, I think in that high leverage moment, 2-minute drill, he's calling the plays. Like, we saw at the end of the first half, the CBS cameras did a great job getting a clip of Rodgers yelling at the sideline, basically saying, let me do this, let me call the plays, stay out of my ear, which I think was, is the right decision. And it worked out well on that 2-minute drive. And Rodgers has done it for so long. Like, I'm going to defer to him in those situations. But to continually test Denzel Ward one-on-one with MVS, a receiver you have not been on the same page with all day. Any deep shot, anything, like Rodgers throws it back shoulder, MVS goes inside, Rodgers throws it inside, MVS is, kind of creating space to try to work to the sideline. They were never on the right footing all day. And Rodgers still just spammed that button so late in the game. Yes, that's a product of you don't have receivers, but it's also like you're going down. Like Rodgers, when he went to the Jets, it was, I need MVS, I need Allen Lazard, I need all my guys that I trust, right? Like, this is a quarterback who's very stubborn, doesn't like playing with young receivers, doesn't trust them. And, you're seeing what happens when you don't develop those young guys, when you don't give Roman Wilson chances, right, to develop. Roman Wilson not being involved in this game plan at all today is a tragedy. Like, I don't think Roman Wilson is amazing. I think he has a whole hell of a lot more juice than Adam Thielen does, than Scotty Miller does. But high leverage moments, the 4th and 1 in the first half, you're throwing a fade ball to Scotty Miller. I would have rather seen any of the things they do with Connor Hayward under center, whether it be the tush push, a handoff off of it. They had the nice little, army kind of quarterback keepers, QB sweep it from under center that they ran early in the first half. Like, any of that stuff I would have liked more in 4th and 1 than a fade ball to Scotty Miller. And again, this is Rodgers, like, in his brain saying, I have one-on-one on the outside. I throw a deep ball. Like, I'm one of the best deep ball throwers in NFL history. I win those matchups, right? Like, I get to the back shoulder with my guys that I trust. He shouldn't have trusted those guys at all because they can't win. Like, there's a reason that they're 4th, 5th string receivers. The Steelers just needed somebody reliable on the outside today. They didn't have anything. And Rodgers stubbornly, I think, kept just trying to test the Browns in man coverage, and you never had it. Arthur Smith, I think the Steelers could have run the ball more, should have run the ball more. But that's tough to do when you give a quarterback so much autonomy at the line of scrimmage. And again, I just thought this loss falls more on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers. I think he was pretty bad in this game. Like, the throw to Freiermuth on the 2-minute drill at the end of the game, amazing. Like, dart over the middle, just over the outstretched arms of the defender. That's the type of big time throw that you need a quarterback to make in that spot. And he got them in the position, but he got the ball out of his hands far too quickly today. I think the Myles Garrett thing was absolutely top of mind for him, which is inexcusable, right? Like, Tony Romo kept talking about it all day as like, Rodgers doesn't want to give up this sack record. Brett Favre gave it up to Michael Strahan. Rodgers doesn't want to follow whatever. Who cares? I don't care about the sack record at all. I would have rather Rodgers taken a sack on the first play of the game from Garrett, given him the record, shook his hand, let him have his moment, let's play football, because it was in his head all day. And it really killed the Steelers offense in a massive way. As Nat Attack in the chat says, felt like a pick six was our only chance to win by the time we hit the 4th quarter. And boy, did Shedeur Sanders give them chances to do it. He was good in the first half, like very good in the first half. Actually, like throwing on time. I thought he was seeing things really well, layering the ball to the second level excellently. Second half hit, and it unraveled. I'd like to, maybe go back and see if the Steelers were doing anything different to like change things up on him. But the Steelers defense just played really well. I mean, they got turnovers. They gave the offense short fields, and the offense couldn't do anything with it. To the defense, like last week and over the last couple of weeks, but particularly last week, it was most pronounced. The Steelers have gone back to playing like a ton of base 3-4, which I don't love, but it's working. It's allowing them to stop the run really well. And then they're dropping linebackers, their outside linebackers, into coverage at crazy rates compared to what they were doing early in the season, especially Herbig and Sawyer. I thought Highsmith as a rusher and against the run was A+ today. Like, Alex Highsmith was the best player on the field for most of, not all of that game. He was immensely disruptive, especially in the second half. So I thought the defensive game plan was good. They got the turnovers. Like, if Sawyer could have returned that one, right? Like, that's the stuff you're banking on. But when the offense plays this poorly, you're just not going to win a lot of football games. Like, the defense gave them every possible chance. The offense could do absolutely nothing. That's a good Browns defense. Like, by raw yards per game, it's the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. It's not that good. Like, that's misleading because so many teams have leads on them. They're now 4-12. They came into this game 3-12. Teams aren't throwing the ball late in games on them, right? So those raw yards, passing yards per game numbers are going to be deflated. So that's misleading, but they are one of the better pass defenses in the NFL. They're fairly good against the run. They've gotten some complementary pieces in the pass rush to Myles Garrett. I thought Alex Wright was very good, especially in the second half. They're, opposite edge. I thought Mason Graham was really good against the run. He's been good all year. That's a team with a lot of nice pieces, and they hung around with the Bills last week, but the way Shedeur played in the second half, the way the Steelers defense played in the second half, it's inexcusable to lose that game. And, as multiple people have said in the chat from TP Guitar Man 96 here, is this another instance of Tomlin having the team play down to, quote, weaker opponents, unquote, versus playing with extraordinary effort versus Detroit? Felt like the team was playing very lax. Yes, maybe, but I'm always going to, like, with Tomlin, when I think of a Tomlin letdown game, I almost always think of it as the defense just, like, getting gashed early and often in the run game and, like, things like that. The way they responded, yes, they gave up a bit too much defensively in the first half. Like, Shedeur Sanders was kind of carving them. But I also think Stefanski had an excellent early script, knowing that the Steelers were doing a lot of that outside linebacker dropping stuff and playing more like cover 2, like old school, early Tomlin era stuff, or, old Dick LeBeau stuff, if you will, which can confuse a young quarterback because, which is a reason I like it, they're not just playing base rushing 5. They're dropping those guys out so they can bring simulated pressure, so they can bring Porter, so they can bring their middle linebackers. And their middle linebackers aren't very good in space and coverage. So the deception of who is blitzing is more valuable than, like, just having a better cover player in coverage, because it's so marginal, the difference between Patrick Queen and Nick Herbig, right? And especially Patrick Queen is trying to cover a more valuable part of the field in the middle of the field. So I really like the defensive structure that the Steelers have actually gotten to in the last couple of weeks, and they've done an excellent job against the run because of it, especially against Detroit, but I thought they did well against the Browns today, especially, again, in the second half. So I don't, like, a Tomlin letdown to me is kind of that type of thing where the defense just, like, is totally flat and they can't tackle and they're getting, picked apart. I thought this Browns offensive success was Shedeur's in rhythm early. Stefanski has a script of 15 or so plays that he really likes, and they kind of cooked with them. And then he got lucky on the Fannin touchdown because that was a terrible ball. And Duggar just didn't see it, couldn't play it. And Harold Fannin, who has been awesome all year, leads all rookie tight ends in catches, I believe, ahead of, like, Tyler Warren and awesome players, Colston Loveland, 2 first-rounders. Makes an awesome play on the ball, gets hurt in the process. And, there's your 10 points. And the 13 came off of a 4th down that the Steelers had to go for late, which I thought was a really good decision by Tomlin to go for it on that 4th and 10, backed up at his own 20, because, again, as Romo explained, as we saw play out, if you don't get it, you give up 3, you still need a touchdown. You were down 4, you needed a touchdown anyways. So I think it's a much better decision than punting that away. Like I think the game management stuff, Tomlin was pretty good in this one. I think he kind of wasted some timeouts in the first half, especially he had another think it over timeout, and I hate those. Before a fourth down, before the Scotty Miller play, which like that was just awful. But the play call to me is like that's not a Tomlin thing. He's a defensive guy. Maybe it filters through him on such a high leverage situation, but he kind of defers and delegates that responsibility. So I don't feel like, to me, this is not like, there it is, Tomlin again. And all season I've been saying I'm ready for the Mike Tomlin era to be over. And maybe we're careening towards that, because I don't think there's much chance that the Steelers, I think the Steelers will have a really tough time with Baltimore next week. And if you give up an opportunity where all you had to do was beat the 3-12 Browns led by Shedeur Sanders to win the AFC North, and you end up missing the playoffs, you could have had a home playoff game. Maybe that does actually spur on the Rooneys to like make a bold move. I think it would certainly be worthy of that, right? So is this a Tomlin like letting them play down to weaker opponents? Maybe, right? Like to me, it's more, there's no DK. Rodgers had a really weird and bad game, and the Browns defense was pretty awesome. So like, is that so much on Tomlin? No, but again, it goes on the resume. Like it counts on those types of losses of, you are a head coach who distills every game down to turnovers and field position, and you don't have any interest in blowing teams out and blowing games wide open. This Steelers offense was not going to blow any team in the NFL out today. So I in that current construction, especially once Darnell Washington went out, because I think that limits you even further in the run game. I can think of the penultimate Steelers possession, I believe, before or maybe the third to last. I think it was the third to last Steelers possession before the one when they were stopped 4 consecutive downs. The 4th and 10 was deflected. So the drive before that, they got a big gain on the first down run. They try to run it again on second down, which I love that decision. They throw a toss to the right side to Warren, again, to use Fautanu and like guys out there. But it gets tackled for a loss. Not solely because Jonnu Smith was the lead blocker out there. Like they didn't really have numbers to that side. So, maybe not the best run call. I would have rather them just gone downhill, because I felt like they were having success getting downhill. But if that's Darnell Washington, I think things are different, because like Jonnu's just kind of a warm body as a blocker, especially a run blocker. Darnell Washington moves people. So that's a significant loss. I have a hard time being like, this is a total Tomlin letdown, but the fact that coming out of yesterday, like it felt like such a bummer that Malik Willis got hurt. Like that was so deflating, because the Packers felt like they were maybe going to beat the Ravens, and it wouldn't matter. The Steelers would come into today with the division sewn up, but you're facing a situation, all you have to do is beat the Shedeur Sanders Browns to win the AFC North, and you don't do it. That does fall on the head coach. And right now we're joined by Shayne Kubas of stillcurtain.com. Shayne, in the chat, kind of talking about like, is this another instance of Tomlin having his team play down to weaker opponents? Is this another, Tomlin fails yet again, as John Swanson says in the chat? Are you pinning this one as like a Tomlin letdown? Because to me, it's just offensive structural issues and a really, really bad game of Rodgers.
I do blame Mike Tomlin for this loss in pretty much every way possible, because he is the reason why this is possible.
Yeah.
He is the reason why a game like this happens, because his insistence on relying on veteran players who don't have it anymore over guys who might have it, or at least have shown signs they have it, is why you get to this point. It's why you get 14 targets to MVS and Adam Thielen that turns into 35 passing yards. It's why Aaron Rodgers gets the opportunity to go out there and basically chuck stuff up to those players, because he's trying to do what he wants to do, what he thinks is best in a game where you're losing your top receiver to suspension. Your running game is kicking ass the entire time. And instead of relying on that, which is something normally you'd expect someone like Mike Tomlin to want to do, he goes away from it despite getting chunk plays on first down consistently. And it just continued to spiral offensively. Every decision to be made was the wrong one. Every play to be made was not made. It just kept spiraling throughout the game, and it just didn't matter what they did at the end of the game. They almost got it done. They almost tied the game. Well, guess what? Pat Freiermuth wasn't involved in the game until the last second. Wonder why that was. Darnell Washington goes down, so he's not even in there to take snaps away from Pat Freiermuth. Johnny Smith gets 5 targets, turns it into I don't even know how many yards. I'd have to look it up right now.
Not many. Care. I can get it for you.
It just his insistence on
18.
playing this way. Great, awesome. His insistence on playing this way, playing these players in particular in this moment against a Browns team that he should be able to beat. I don't really care who's hurt on this team. You were playing a 3-12 Browns team that, frankly, everyone doesn't want to win except for the players and coaches, which obviously that's great. But at the end of the day, like, this is a game that you have to win, especially seeing how the Ravens looked with Tyler Huntley at quarterback last night.
Yeah.
You cannot put this game on week 18 when you were going to play this way. I just simply can't believe that this is the position that they put themselves in, and ultimately he put himself in. That's what's most frustrating about this is he doesn't have to be this way, Josh. He doesn't have to do it, but he is insistent on doing it. And every time we think a corner is being turned or something's happening, like these last 3 games, we are always reminded that at the end of the day, this team is coached by someone who only wants to do things a certain way, and that just doesn't always go that way.
I definitely agree with you there, because I think I was looking at it through the lens of, in my mind, a typical Tomlin letdown. Sometimes it's the offense like sputtering and looking terrible like this, but a lot of times to me it's like just lifeless on defense. You're getting gashed in the run game, and like you have no answers and no real punch. I thought the defense looked very good in the second half. I thought it was fine I thought it was even fine in the first half. Like that it was
a couple unlucky plays and just not being in the right spot. It happens.
Yeah, like that the touchdown to Fannin, that's total luck. Like that's a horrible pass. Duggar just never sees
That's just Fannin being better than Kyle Duggar in that moment.
And Fannin's awesome. So like that's gonna happen. Like I really don't. We can talk about it eventually. I like a lot of what they're doing. Defensively, and we can get into the structures of that and whatnot. As Jessica Picola checking in the chat again, can Shayne send that in a strongly worded letter to Art, please? I actually think it's an amazing argument, because yes, the Steelers didn't have DK Metcalf. That's a huge problem. The Steelers, Rodgers, to me, I blame Rodgers more than like Arthur Smith for the going away from the run game stuff. We parsed that out throughout the year.
We know that he has a lot of control over that at the line of scrimmage, as he should theoretically, but you want him to make better decisions then in that case.
Yeah.
Especially when he has MVS and Adam Thielen to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
Let's maybe not do that, Aaron.
And it almost it kind of reminds me of like we watched Titanic this weekend, and in one of the modern scenes they're talking about the captain, and he's like, it doesn't, the ship doesn't have a big enough rudder, so it doesn't corner worth a damn, and like 26 years of experience working against him. And for me, Rodgers, it's like it's 21 years of NFL experience totally working against him in this game. He sees single high man coverage the whole time, and everything in his being, in his soul, is saying, I will cook this with back shoulder fades. I know my guys out there are gonna but you can't do that when you have these guys out there. And to your point, it is malpractice to have a receiver core of MVS, Adam Thielen. What is Adam Thielen doing getting NFL snaps at this point this year? Like, he's beyond washed. Roman Wilson, anything from Roman Wilson, man. Like, I feel like this
not
is
a single target. I don't even know if he did, frankly. I couldn't tell you.
I think he got like a couple snaps, but honestly, I'm being 100% honest. Those were probably Scotty Miller snaps when I was like, there's a little guy.
Yeah, and someone was out there playing receiver besides those two. You just simply can't tell me with a straight face that, especially 3 quarters into the game, and you have 6 points, that you still think Adam Thielen and MVS are better to be out there than anyone else on the team currently healthy. You can't convince me of that. I might have put Ben Skoranek broken thumb and all out there at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you can't continue to see what you were seeing from this receiver core for 3 quarters and then go into the 4th quarter down 4 points, asking yourself, all right, how are we going to win this game? I know, the same thing we've been doing for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
You can't do that. There's just no way you can justify that. but they did. That's what they did, Josh. It's what they're going to do again if the opportunity presents itself. We know this about this team. That's the thing that sucks so much is this type of game. I just put it out of my mind. I'm like, you know what? The Browns are as bad as they can be, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I know the defense is good. I know we're out Metcalf. I don't even know if the Browns truly want to win this game that badly. I know the players do and the coaches do, but like sometimes when you're out of it this bad, you just you can't get up for this game. They did, and the Steelers had no punchback for it. They had no counterpoint, nothing that they could do about it because they simply don't have the guys out there. And
Mm-hmm.
who was that ultimately falling? You could try to say it's Omar Khan. We all know, though,
Yeah,
this team is built a certain way because of who the head coach is, because of who he is as a person.
Yeah, it was an awful performance. And to Rodgers, like, because I'm still putting a lot of the blame of this on Rodgers because I think he was terrible. And I kind of like, there's no way he wasn't thinking about the sack record, right? 100%. Like, it was top of mind for him. And this is happy feet Rodgers that we've seen earlier in the season where he's just getting the ball out way too quickly, check down city. Like, yes, part of that is the receivers, but you got to buy them a little more time. I wouldn't have hated a couple sacks today because I know, like, your best bet is to create a little bit out of structure, to give those guys an extra beat to find a soft spot or whatever, break away from man coverage, to test Denzel Ward 3 straight times at the end of the game. Like, there's not even a conversation worth being had there. It's just wrong. It's just objectively the wrong thing to do. So, like, what did you see from Rodgers? Because to me, it was one of his worst games of the season, if not his worst.
It was, but again, it was brought on by the fact that, like, at some point, I don't care if you're a 21-year veteran. I don't care who you have out at receiver, whether it was Metcalf or not. It's not working.
Yeah.
So someone has to be able to go to Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, turn around and hand the football off until they stop it.
Yeah.
We can't do anything offensively. The only thing we have done today is run the football.
Mm-hmm.
Do it until they stop it. If they can stop it, great. We'll try to figure something else out, or we'll try to get creative in the passing game or whatever. Stop throwing these not even close to 50-50 balls to MVS along the sideline. He's not doing it. He's not getting in the spot you need him to get to. I don't care if you have however many years of experience with him. He can't play anymore, Aaron. Stop throwing him the football.
Yeah.
And if no one did that, which I know they didn't, because if they did, I think it would have stopped happening because this is a must-win game for them, then this is part of the problem ultimately too. It doesn't matter how good Aaron has played at times this year, including the past 3 games prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in this organization has to be able to go to him and say, hey, stop doing this thing over and over again that has not worked once yet.
Yeah.
The game is on the line. Stop doing it.
This is the division because I have no faith that they're going to beat the Ravens.
They have no shot, in my opinion. There's no way.
I completely agree. Jaylen Warren finished this game with 12 carries for 64 yards, 5.3 yards a pop. Connor Hayward, weird, situation,
that was fun.
but
that
2
was
carries.
the only time I was like, whoa, we're doing something today.
Yeah, like, I loved that. Get
cool.
weird in the running game. Like, Art has shown an ability to do that this year, and they're not able to because Rodgers wants to play so much out of the gun. He wants to have a run, like, a two-way go at the line of scrimmage, and I get why he wants to. But, man, get under center and hand the sucker off because even Gainwell, like, 7 for 26, 3.7, whatever. But Jaylen Warren finishing this game with fewer than 20 touches is malpractice. So there's so much about this game that's malpractice. That is going to be one that's overlooked. But, like, to not get him immensely involved in this game is baffling to me, especially after how well he played last week. He's been playing pretty well, like, most of the season. He was ripping them up on the interior, and I just don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it.
And you know what, too? This is something that's really frustrating, is for the second half of that game, they had a linebacker out there with one leg.
Yes.
Why you weren't running straight at Carson Schlesinger every single play until he was taken out of the game or until he proved you could stop it?
He couldn't move.
He couldn't move. And let's all credit to him for sticking out there and trying to get it done because he's the best linebacker in this team, even though Devin Bush, ironically, has also been phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
He's a Rookie of the Year candidate, probably going to be the Defensive Rookie of the Year, especially with what he's done so far this season, even missing a little bit of time. He couldn't play. He couldn't do anything.
No.
And not only did he not be able to, like, did they not attack him as much as they could have in the run game, where was he in the passing game? Why weren't we finding whoever he was guarding on every passing play and throwing the ball to that guy? What's
Yeah.
because he's a linebacker who plays in the middle of the field, so you can't do that. It just gets to the point where, again, if you do something, whatever it was, like I said, 9 times MVS was targeted, I swear at least 6 of them were either back shoulder fades or just fade balls in the end zone.
Yeah.
And you get none of them to work. And then you still go to it on the 4th down play for the game is beyond me.
I would have rather them handed it off.
It would have been a probably better play.
Yeah.
Like, they would have had a better shot. He can't do it. He just can't. Like, I don't know what else to tell you at this point. He has given you every reason to believe he can't do it in the short time he's been here. I don't know what happened over the course of this game to make them think that the best play they had was going to him on 4th down to win the game or to tie the game. But they did it, and they got what they deserved for doing it.
Boy, did they. Like, even at MVS, we don't have to relitigate his career, but like, even at his best, he's not that player.
Throw the ball to on 4th down.
No.
There's 50-50 shot he's going to drop it just because.
Yes.
He doesn't need a reason to drop the ball. That's his whole MO. And listen, he's been a productive player and a helpful player to Super Bowl teams, like he has. It just doesn't matter because this is 2025 and it's 4th down for the division. You cannot go to MVS. I don't care who you go to other than him. It could be almost anyone else on the team. Throw the ball to Connor Hayward for all I care. I don't care who the target goes to. You can't throw it to him in that scenario, given what you've seen from him today. It'd be different if he was on a heater and was hitting these back shoulder throws and they were getting it like, and that's great. Even then, I'd still be like, that's not the guy you trust on 4th down. But they did it anyway, despite all the evidence saying they should not do it.
Oh,
what do you do with that?
I really do love your point of like, this is a systemic Tomlin loss. Like, this is all the little systemic things with this team coming to roost. Like, it is, there was no moment today of like, the defense is really flat or that was a terrible timeout. Like, I didn't love the one again before the Scotty Miller
They do that though because they love letting the play clock run down or something happen. Well, that was with Darnell is having like a weird injury. So I give him a little bit of a pass for that, but we know that this team loves.
They would have called that timeout anyways. Yeah,
they love wasting. The favorite thing on the planet is to waste first half timeouts.
The Tomlin think it over timeout. It drives me.
Let me think about this for a minute. It's like, all right, man, what are you thinking about right now?
Yeah,
you really thinking about?
Every great coach in the NFL knew they were going for it on 4th down, on 2nd down. So
you go into the drive or the sequence knowing like, what am I going to do if I get 4th and 3 here? Am I going for it? Am I not? I don't think they ever know that. Honestly, it just feels like it's all haphazard, to be honest with you. But whatever.
To a question in the chat, which I think, the chat has been very active today, so we want to get to it as much. And Nat Attack, I want to get to your question about the Ravens game. We have to talk about the game like very soon.
We do.
There's a lot of meat left to pick on this bone, and we'll do that even later.
Yeah.
Does Aaron have a dramatically better game if DK was available? It sounds like we are blaming Aaron for trying wide receiver. They can't make plays, but that almost sounds like the wide receivers are the main issue. Yes, the wide receivers are the main issue. That's a Tomlin thing. That's the wide receivers thing. Like, that's a million things. I think Rodgers has a better game. Like, yes, he definitely has a better game if DK is available. But in the confines of this, what he did have, he managed that about as poorly as possible, in my opinion.
That's the issue. It's not so much about like Aaron didn't play well, but it's because of what he chose to try to do with what he was given. I think if you have him with DK1, he hits more of the plays he did try to make to MVS. Those plays happen and probably work. Yeah. But even if they don't, then they just wouldn't have relied on that so much in this game. Like, especially, in man coverage situations where he can win off the line and separate quickly and he can throw him a slant or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be this 50-50 or back shoulder situation constantly like it was in this game. So yeah, like DK being out is what facilitated this to happen. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't excuse Rodgers for choosing to still just go to the well of MVS 9 times with no success. You have to pivot at some point, and he just never did that enough to actually make an impact on this game the way he could have.
Yeah, it's exactly the point of like, yes, of course, it's better if DK's there. But considering what it was a terrible performance by Rodgers. And to Nat Attack now, again, there's more meat on this bone with this game. I want to talk about the defense. I want to talk about a lot. Maybe we could talk about the defense in this context. Based on today, what % chance do we give the Steelers to win next week? You said, Shayne, almost no shot. Like, where are we, like, non-emotionally? Because it's still, like, maybe almost no shot, but where are you at?
25%.
Yeah.
I just don't. I understand this run defense is different whenever Harmon is in there, and we might see TJ Watt come back, and that's another question about does anything change if TJ is back next week? Yes, but also the run defense at this point seems to be more reliant on having the full deployment of their interior players, specifically Harmon out there. They did a really good job in this game overall, as I kind of expected them to do. But I do think that the Ravens right now, if they play the way they did against the Packers, which obviously you can't guarantee, and they rarely do play their best against the Steelers team for whatever reason. Don't know what that's about. But whether it's Tyler Huntley, Lamar Jackson, I don't really, well, maybe not Cooper Rush because that was, but like if it's one of those two, I think that they have a very, very good shot of going into Pittsburgh and winning this game because ultimately, without Metcalf out there, this offense clearly does not have any clue what it needs to be doing to actually create offense consistently, other than running the ball, which then they refuse to then do, even though it's consistently working. So it to me just feels like everything is coming up Ravens right now for a multitude of reasons. And this game gave me no reason to think that they have a solid game plan to play offense effectively without Metcalf out there.
I came into this game, and you mentioned kind of your feelings, like you put it out of mind. Like, obviously, they're gonna find a way. Surely they'll find a way.
They have to. They just had to.
I came into this game thinking the Steelers were gonna lose. There's my pessimism that we've, we're familiar with that.
Guess what? You were right. So
yeah,
what am I supposed to say? So
it just felt like that, right? And it feels like next week is going to be even. Oh man, I hate saying this because the playoff game, like the gotta have it games against the Ravens last year. Yes, the first one, the Steelers kept it pretty close, and like Wilson couldn't come through at the end. And then the playoff game, they got dump trucked. I don't think they're gonna get like completely dump trucked. I have a hard time.
It'll be a slow bleed that ultimately.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be it, right? Like it's gonna be just like they never really feel like they're there. It's like weirdly close at halftime. And then I would put it like you at like, I think I'd put it at 30%, just because if they do get the turnovers and like something, but the offense inspires absolutely no confidence with any type of short field.
They got 2 turnovers off of the Browns today and got, I believe, 0 points off.
Yeah, no points out of them.
Because one of them, I think, was a missed field goal or something like that, or in the failed fourth down convert. That's another one. 4th and 1, you throw a fade to Scotty Miller.
Awful. Inexcusably bad.
You got about 50 different ways to get 1 yard on this team, and none of them are particularly interesting to me, but they mostly work, and that's the one you went with.
Yeah.
I guess at least it wasn't to MVS, because then he'd have 10 targets for 21 yards. I don't know. But again, like, what about this offense realistically that you watched today gives you any amount of confidence that against the Ravens team that just put up 41 points on a Packers defense that admittedly is missing Micah Parsons and is kind of clearly just like lost their ability to play, how are you going to sit there and tell me that you really feel this team has even like a 50-50 shot even at home to win this game? That does not mean that they can't or that they won't, because we know how this team operates and what they're able to do occasionally against, especially this opponent, and especially when this opponent is not even very good this year overall. But even if they do, let's talk about that for a second, actually, Josh. Yeah. Even if they do,
let's.
You're supposed to get Metcalf back, right? Obviously, he should be back from a suspension. Do we really believe that that's going to solve all the issues that they have right now and allow them to actually put up a solid fight against whoever the 5 seed ultimately is? At this point, I'm really hard pressed to think so, because this team is very, very momentum based a lot of the time, whether you believe in it or not. And not having him in the lineup for 2 weeks just to get him back in a playoff scenario just doesn't feel like it's necessarily going to play out the way that everyone hopes that it will.
So right now it would be the Bills. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right now, yeah, because the Chargers lost.
Yes.
To the Texans. So it should be the Bills, especially if they win against the Eagles today. which I forget when that game is, but I think it's later tonight.
Yeah,
But
I think it's 4:25, so I think it would have kicked off. So,
okay, maybe.
Regardless, though,
Yeah.
like if it's the Bills again,
I mean, I
don't think
don't care what the scenario is if it's the Bills. I'm not.
Yeah, like they're gonna get killed. Obviously,
Probably.
they'll have Harmon. Hopefully for that one. Obviously,
assume,
who knows?
okay,
You
yeah.
assume they have Harmon. That really has drastically changed things for their run defense. I don't think they just get duoed to death like they did last time.
Right. You hope not. Oh my god.
And then, but okay, you don't get duoed to death. You get Josh Allen to death. Like, there's just no real way they're gonna keep pace in that game. The Texans, the Chargers, like regardless, I don't see any scenario where they win a playoff game this year. I haven't wavered on that. I think your point is great about like reintegrating DK. I do think that'll be clunky and weird, and like they just
it is
don't.
half the time this season.
Yeah,
Like, they have a hard time doing it. So why would I think they'll do
yeah.
it well with 2 weeks off of it?
I completely agree, and so it feels very irrelevant to me. Like today, even like it hurt, I guess, but it also felt irrelevant. Like right, like this team isn't. This just team doesn't have a real shot. It's never had a real shot this season. It felt like maybe it lucked into a real shot after beating the Lions, a remarkably flawed team. Like,
unfortunately for them, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. I never allowed myself to believe that this was like real, and now I think it's going to go out pretty ugly next week on the home field. And to Jessica again in the chat, which love the interaction. This is great questions today.
Yeah.
What has happened? What has to happen against the Ravens for the organization to actually consider a regime change with Tomlin?
That's one of the toughest questions maybe in the sport right now is what would have to happen for this to change.
Is there anything that could happen?
I think if they get the doors blown off them at home against this Ravens team, and I mean, like, it was never in doubt that the Ravens are going to win this game. It was embarrassing. Ravens put up like record numbers on the ground in particular, because I think that's the way they're going to try to go, obviously. And like, there's no fight from the team whatsoever. They basically quit at halftime in the sense of like they're not really trying that hard anymore. It's very obvious. I think there's a chance that ownership might just go like, clearly this can't continue if we want to actually say to ourselves that we're trying to be competitive and trying to win a Super Bowl. But even then, I feel like they're just going to say, well, we ran out of gas and we need to upgrade some things in the off season, and Omar Khan has to cook and whatever. Like, they're just,
and the DK,
yeah, exactly.
The DK suspension was unlucky.
Yeah, the DK Metcalf suspension really is what did us in. It's like, yeah, you lost by 30 points instead of 18.
Yeah,
like that's not a good argument, but I think that's probably what you'd have to have happen. And then even then, again, like I said, I don't think it would actually change anything realistically. He's got his 9 wins. We're good. I don't want to push that on him, but you know what I mean? Like, it just, we can't expect anything to change at this point.
I genuinely think the only way it would happen is if they had a losing season and we're playing meaningless games down the stretch.
Yeah. Like,
and now they're
for a week, like 17 or 18. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're in it till the end. And it's like, like for the Pirates fans that are Steelers fans as well, it's Bob Nutting's play. We want to be playing meaningful games in September, right? Like, okay, that's the goal. Seriously. And that's what the Steelers have become. Like, we want to be playing meaningful games the whole way. And they accomplished that. So I don't think it's going to change. I think it's absolutely like, it's borderline unjustifiable to actually run it back and just do this again. Like, it's
especially
insane to me.
Anything close to this version of the team, right?
Yeah.
Like,
if you're going to do it, tear it down to the studs, man.
Just be like, clearly this isn't working. Let's do everything else different. But that's not going to matter if the coaching staff stays in place. But realistically, right, if they lose next week and it's ugly, I think the only thing that probably happens, even though I don't necessarily think it would be all his fault, I do think any chance of Rodgers returning next year probably ends.
Yeah.
If they go out sad, because even if he might want to try to run it back again to save himself from ending that way, I think the Steelers are gonna be like, well, it didn't work out, and when he lost Metcalf, he just wasn't able to get it done, even though he's the veteran court. Like, I think that they would it to maybe not blaming Rodgers, but just quietly being like, maybe he was actually the problem, even though he's clearly the best quarterback we've had in the past 5 years. I think that's what would maybe happen that might not happen if they win next week. Even if they lose in the playoffs, I think there's a chance Rodgers comes back if he wants to, right?
Mhm.
But that might be actually what's happening that could change next week, if anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And let's get into, like, we're talking about that game next week, and it feels a little bit different because the defense is actually, like, kind of kicking ass a little
They
bit.
are. They are.
So I mentioned kind of the structural stuff of they're, like, living in base.
Yeah.
And which is, you can do against the Browns with, Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy and, like, not a real receiver core.
Mhm.
But, I mean, they did it also against the Lions quite a bit, and it generated a lot of interior pressure because they're dropping the outside linebackers out and able to, get Patrick Queen playing downhill, which is always my refrain about him. I don't think he's a good player. If he can be a heat-sinking missile, he's impactful.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're finding kind of those things to work with a mid-2000s defense. Like we always say, Tomlin wants to play mid-2000s football. He is, like, selling out on that.
He's living in it right now.
And it's actually working, which kind of makes sense because offensive football in the NFL has kind of gone back to a multiple tight ends and, like, it's gone back to that world. So what have you seen from that? I mean, that's a very kind of, surface level overview of it, but, like, what have you seen structurally and from that defense that have changed things?
I do think playing more of that style of defense has just helped alleviate some of the issues, obviously, in the run game that they're having on top of getting Derek Harmon back. I think that the secondary, specifically the corners, have played much better in recent weeks and has allowed them to get away with that more because you have to be able to play good coverage without as many defensive backs, obviously, if you're going to run that type of defense that you can stop the run. So them holding up their end of the bargain has been a big part of that for sure. If that can continue, I think they can continue to play defense that way. But we all know that that type of defense has its limits in the NFL nowadays, despite the fact that we are seeing a little bit of a resurgence of that, mid-2000s style in terms of formations. And now, like, how they get into things and what they do with it is much different. But that idea of playing with bigger bodies has kind of had a resurgence both on the Steelers and across the league. But honestly, having Derek Harmon in there has really helped because he just displaces the line of scrimmage a lot better than anyone else they have besides Cam Hayward. He kind of resets the line of scrimmage for them. He can hold up against double teams often. Like, that has made a huge difference. And like you said, like, allowing the linebackers to play kind of more free a little bit, especially coming at the line of scrimmage, just has helped stop some of the indecisiveness and, like, missing their assignments and missing holes. Like, it's made it less of an issue by them playing with that style. So,
which is a tough thing because then you go, man, that's kind of impressive by Mike Tomlin to figure that out so late in the season and kind of have a solution for a defense and part of that solution obviously is just Derek Harmon is now healthy, but like, he's thrown a lot of different pitches defensively this year and Terrell Austin too. But, like, I actually think on that side of the ball, it's been one of his most interesting and effective years in a while in the context
back half of this year.
In the context of what he wanted to do at the beginning of the year was completely not going to work. It was broken. He had to accept that and, like, playing off of that. So again, he created a poor circumstance and now he's elevating outside of it. You still probably blame him for thinking that you can win in the NFL with a blitz heavy system and Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay as your cover corners in man coverage. So
that wasn't a great start to the year. So,
wasn't a great idea. So
credit is due where it's due, but also it comes down to, like you said, he kind of just got to go back to, like, playing the type of defense that he ultimately would rather play anyway. So it's like, all right, he kind of just still got his way at the end of the day, just in a roundabout way. So, like,
he did kind of,
but it's interesting, right? Again, the offense though, he trusts Adam Thielen and MVS, and so does Rodgers, clearly, which so again, that he feeds into that, and I think those two feed into each other in the best and worst ways. It's kind of,
imagine, not to derail you, but imagine the text message or the phone call or whatever conversation it was, what that Rodgers and Tomlin had about MVS and about Adam Thielen. They were probably so pumped. right? Like they were like, we got a guy, he's a Pro Bowler, he knows what he's doing. Oh, I'm gonna get him the ball, and like he's gonna be in the right spots, and we can get rid of this Roman Wilson guy who thinks he's fast and has some juice. Like, oh, this is gonna be beautiful. And it, oh my God, I just, not to derail you, but they do definitely feed into each other so much.
Yeah, man, they certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's one of those combinations where it's like on the surface, you're like, wow, two legends of the game, been around for a long time, really cool. And then you stop and you're like, oh, but actually, they kind of feed into each other in the worst possible way. They really kind of do.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's a catch-22 of like, well, they really link up, in terms of what they want to do and how they want to do it, but also, is that good?
Yeah.
It depends on the week. But the whole MVS of it all and the end of feeling of it all, it's like so predictable. Like there's that whole, like, I forget, I couldn't tell you who it was, but it could be literally 50 different people probably, because I bet you it was tweeted by 50 different people. Like Tomlin's going to say something about like whatever he talks about at his press conference, and then they're going to go sign a 2018 Pro Bowler,
Yeah.
Like that's what they do. Mike Williams traded for last trade deadline. He made all of one play for that team. It was a good play. I'll give him that, but it was one. So far, I'm waiting for the Adam Thielen play. You could argue the blown coverage MVS 11-yard touchdown is his play so far, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
Not a whole there.
But again, like you cannot tell me, I don't care what anyone tells me. You could pull up every example you can find of like, well, actually Roman Wilson was bad on this play because like what, he can't be worse than those two. He can't.
No.
Because he can run.
Yeah.
He can catch the ball. I don't know what to tell you, man. I just figure it out. I don't care. You don't have anyone else. Your best receiver's gone right now. Your second best receiver, debatably, is gone right now too. Figure it out. Do something. It's like that meme of the dude poking whatever on the ground with the stick, like do something. That was me the entire time watching this offense this week, because I'm like, clearly there's got to be something else you could try to do, right? No. Until like Pat Freiermuth caught like 3 straight passes over the middle of the field, which I'm like, I guarantee that was available before this. I have to assume.
So I think some of that, not to nitpick on like, obviously they should have had him more involved. I think some of that is in those 2-minute drive situations were really the only time Cleveland was actually in like split field safety looks and like trying to keep an umbrella on things. So that opens the middle of the field a little bit more to that kind of, so like that was kind of my justification a little bit for the lack of Freiermuth touches, but still it's still not excusable. Like even some of any of the Jonnu Smith screens or whatever, I would rather be a 4-yard stick to Freiermuth who falls forward for 6. Like
it's not even about the way that they got him the ball at the end. It's the fact that they decided, it's like, oh, well, now we can throw him the ball because they're playing the coverage that we get to throw that pass to him. Like you're telling me that a tight end with like 4 seasons of 600 plus yards can only be used in this scenario right now?
Yes.
The same thing happened against the Bengals. They got down and were like, we're throwing the ball to Pat Freiermuth because he's open. It's like, well, maybe just get him involved in the game before then, and you'll be able to like be good before that. I don't know. Like I don't. That's what I'm saying. Is like clearly you're down your best receiver, and you could make an argument going into the season that the second best pass catcher on this team preseason was Pat Freiermuth. You could make a very good argument for that, despite Jonnu Smith's season with the Dolphins the year before, and what we were hoping for from guys like Calvin Austin and all that stuff. You could make an argument, and I probably would have, that he was the second best pass catcher on this team. And he doesn't get used 90% of the time. If there's ever going to be a time to make him the focal point of the offense, this wasn't the time for it. No, I don't know what to tell you that.
This
is Arthur Smith we're talking about. You don't want to use the tight end? This is your dream. All you have is the tight ends, Arthur. Use them to your heart's content. No. All right.
That's why to me it's a Rodgers thing. Like
it definitely is part of it, but it's still just like, what are we talking about? Like,
but then Rodgers, like, throw to tight end. He's clearly your best player. I don't. It really is Rodgers and Tomlin like feed into each other's worst habits and worst instincts, and that was all this game. It's so embarrassing. What an embarrassing franchise that you can't win that game. You have momentum finally. Things finally seem like they're turning around on defense. You got so here's the other thing, I guess. Is this team a bit of a luck box? Every Tomlin team kind of is. Every Tomlin team kind of is. But like, is this one of the most luck boxy, like bad Tomlin teams in recent years? Non-Duck Hodges thing? Like,
it's weird because like I think when everything was in order and the offense had its pieces, I think this was arguably the most stable like offensive environment that the Steelers have been able to work within in years. But then you had the first half of the season where the defense could only do one thing well, and it was force turnovers. And so when they didn't, it didn't matter how good the offense was because they got blown off. The doors got blown off them immediately, and it didn't matter. So there's that element of it. And then now you get the back half of the season. There's a 3-game obviously winning streak that coincided where everything was working because you had your full complement of players on defense outside of, TJ Watt and everything, but the run defense in particular got shored up. And Aaron Rodgers played good football for the first time in like 4 games before that. You had that little 3-game window of like, this is what this team theoretically can be. And then, of course, DK Metcalf goes in the stands and hits a guy who may or may not have said whatever he said or may not have done whatever. Either way, the strange person I never want to see on my screen again. That's I'm confident about. That happens, and now you get this. So, like, you could honestly argue that they have less of the luck going on because, of course, something like this happens to them.
Yeah.
Of course, this is what ends up derailing it potentially. And, like, you can say whatever you want about DK Metcalf. I'm not saying he's like the best player in the world. In fact, I'd be the last person probably to tell you that. But when he's the only thing you got at receiver, it sucks not to have him out there. It just does. So that's kind of my thing with it.
Everything has lined up perfectly for this team. Like, yes, the suspension, obviously not.
Yeah.
But up until that point, the Ravens, with the most dreadful possible start, while actually playing kind of good football, at least offensively, like before Lamar got hurt, and then Lamar gets hurt, so they kind of sputter and don't really like start kicking ass. Then they fix the offense a little bit, but then the Steelers beat them with a dubious no touchdown Isaiah Likely thing. Like, and then you get the breaks against the Lions with the offensive pass interference calls. And are we calling the breaks? Are we not? Whatever. This division was handed to you on a silver platter.
3 different times in the season. It was,
yes.
Too. That's the thing that really gets me. Is like, go ahead, Josh.
In a year when Bo Nix is probably going to have the 1 seed and Drake May is amazing, but is going to play his first playoff games as like maybe the 2 seed.
Yeah.
The 3 seed's going to be the Jaguars. Like, there are a lot of really good teams, but this is not just like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, like typical kind of Lamar Jackson, typical gauntlet in the playoffs. It's something different. It's a chance when you actually maybe could have, if you need the right draw, whatever, but there was actually an opportunity here and this team completely wasted it. This is just and it's so predictable. It didn't even hurt that bad because I was like, of course they would lose this game.
That's the problem too, is like it didn't hurt. It was more so just like you couldn't just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't, because I have a staff for you, by the way, that was posted in the NFL division chat of our Slack at FanSided, which is always the holy grail for information. The Steelers, over their past 5 games against teams that are versus teams entering 8+ games below 500. So the team that they're playing was at least 8 games under 500 at the time that they played them. They are 0-4-1 against those teams in their last 5 games. 2020, they lost to the 10-1 Bengals. 2021, 0-8 Lions tied them. That was the Mason Rudolph game, I believe, where he came in. The 2-10 Cardinals beat them in 2023. Remember that game? That's when Kenny Pickett got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Pickett, unfortunately. Also, the very next week, if I'm not mistaken, against the 2-10 Patriots. And then today against the Browns, who are 3-12. That is hard to even fathom that that's the case.
Yeah. Like, how do you not fire the coach?
Well, they're going to find a way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
They'll answer that question.
I think people sometimes like do the thing of like they always lose in these scenarios. And I think they mean like 2 teams that are worse than them or worse record. That statistically is not true, really. Yeah. But this scenario specifically of being like so much better record-wise or just better than the team you're playing and then losing to that team, that clearly, at least over the past 5 times they've done it, is true because they haven't won one of them. That feels really hard to do, even in that small of a sample size. So to me, maybe that's the conversation is like like red light, like blinking obvious, like this is must win, no reason to lose the game. That's the ones that they actually struggle in for some reason. It's the like 5 and 6 teams that they can beat and whatever else that they're better than, but not apparently these teams. So
yeah, and though a lot of those examples, you think about just like a super flat performance, and
yeah,
this was offensively, but it was just like a stupid performance
yeah, it was
also.
just silly stuff left and
Yeah.
right. Like
It was just like it was legitimately to me a huge part of it. And I will never like not I'd be convinced otherwise. A huge part of this game plan was we're not letting Myles Garrett get this sack while TJ Watt's on the sideline. And
right. And like
that's so bad. Who gives a shit about a sack record?
you
I
can't
don't.
possibly act like here's the thing is people will say to you and me who say that a little bit and say like that's nonsensical. Of course they were playing to win and not playing not to give up a sack to Myles Garrett. They just didn't want him to affect the game because that's how you beat the Browns is don't let Myles Garrett sack you 5 times. Well, the Patriots beat them easily with him doing that, but that's beside the point. They're the Patriots, so I guess it doesn't count. But you could say like, yeah, not letting him affect the game is paramount. Sure. But watch that game back and you tell me that there wasn't chances for Aaron to try to step up in the pocket or to escape the pocket with Garrett getting around the edge and getting pushed around the pocket. And instead of that, he immediately was like, I got to get this ball away right now because Myles Garrett's going to sack me, as if that's going to end the game. It's a bad look on
It's a
first
really
watch.
bad look.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to sit here and claim that like they went in the meeting rooms like, all right, guys, number one priority this week, don't let Myles Garrett sack our quarterback. If we win, that'd be great. But don't worry, we can just win next week and it'll be fine. That didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But in the back of their minds, clearly, that was something that mattered to them, and it shouldn't have mattered even the slightest bit. Myles Garrett could have had 50 sacks in this game if we won it. I don't care. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Not whenever you have a division to win. If they're 5 and 10, whatever, then you could care about whatever
sure.
game you want. I'd rather you lose probably anyway at that point. Doesn't matter. But it's like in a game where you could have won the division before the last game of the season, it shouldn't have been a single thought in your mind.
No. Oh my God. Every time Garrett was on a like stunt, they started bringing him on like these loops and he would, line up over Spencer Anderson at left guard, and Rodgers was very cognizant to react to it, as you should. Again, it is Myles Garrett.
That's
like
fine.
Yes.
It's just
but the big looping stunts and whatever, like Rodgers immediately started getting happy feet. Like, where is he? Where is he? And that's no way to play offense. That's no way to prioritize anything in a game plan whatsoever. And it always feels like stupid stuff like that ends up mattering somehow to this team. And that's exhausting.
Just a little bit. I mean, again, we could sit here for hours and talk about this. We could.
Yeah.
And we will over the next however long. It's going to be the case. But I will say something I wanted to bring up in this because of, one, the quarterback play and the way things are going, and the fact that this could very well be heading towards a lost season, despite everything suggesting that it wouldn't be the last couple of weeks. This is a fun conversation to have right now.
Yeah.
I've only seen, there's only been like, I think 4.5, 5-ish starts of this now for him.
For the pure audio, for the audio only listeners, Nat Attack in the chat. Maybe we try to get Malik Willis for next year. He is going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
He was obviously the quarterback that they were rumored to be after the Kenny Pickett draft, and suffered a shoulder injury at the end of the game against the Ravens. A blowout Ravens win, but he was spectacular. So for the context.
Yes, he was absolutely spectacular. Yeah, definitely good point with that. You can't tell me, even with the 4.5, 5-ish starts that I've seen of him, right? You can't tell me that there are more than like 20 quarterbacks better than him in the NFL right now.
Yo, you're all the way in.
There's no, like, specifically, it is one thing to like put up good numbers in the Packers offense, right? Because they churn out numbers in that offense, like they do it. I'm telling people, for those of you who can do this, if you have, NFL Pro or you get clips from people, whatever, watch the film on Malik Willis over the past 2 seasons with the Packers. He looks nothing like he did in Tennessee. If you remember, if you're thinking of Malik Willis right now, you're like, you mean the guy who seemed afraid to throw the football with the Tennessee Titans? That is not the same player that you're watching right now. If you watch his Packers tape, this dude can play. The best way I could describe it is like, if you're someone who's a fan of Justin Fields, think about if he was good. No offense, just hey, I'm not trying to he was good for us for 6 games last year, but all the things you think Justin Fields is good at, if you're a fan of Justin Fields, Malik Willis is actually shown on an NFL field for more than 3 quarters at a time.
I like him. I'm not as I haven't watched as closely, but man, last night there's not a lot to nitpick about his game. He's just always getting yardage as a scrambler. He's all when there's nothing there, he's a pretty good sack avoidance guy. Sometimes you think of a scrambler creator guy not being that, and that's sometimes the trade-off. But no, he's a good sack avoidance player. He can throw outside the numbers, which is very valuable and not a Justin Fields thing. Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur is doing an awesome job. I also think Matt LaFleur calls awesome games for Malik Willis.
He really does.
Which is helpful, but also Malik Willis gives you options, right? Mason Rudolph doesn't give you options when he comes into a game. Malik Willis gives you options, and that's why that's the different level of. And I also think he could be an NFL starting quarterback.
He just everything you see on tape from him over the past 5-ish or so games he's played the significant portion of for the Packers, right? It is a guy who is very calm in the pocket despite being so erratic with the Titans just a few years ago.
Yeah.
He keeps his eyes downfield when he's escaping the pocket, when he creates out of structure. He does not immediately take off like he would have with the Titans. There's a play he made in this game against the Ravens that he played last night where he made a crazy play to get out of a sack and scrambled around. And then as he's running towards the line of scrimmage, instead of just taking off, he kept his eyes up, had a big play down the field because of it, right? He is doing everything, literally everything you think a mobile quarterback is supposed to be able to do eventually to make themselves as good of a player as they can. He has shown flashes of that, or if not consistent full games of that, multiple times since he's joined the Packers. It's not a one game thing for him. It's still not a huge sample size, but again, it would be very easy to find more examples of him doing the type of stuff that you want a quarterback like him to be able to do than you could for many guys who are starting right now doing it. That's just what it is at this point, right? I think any team who wants to reset the quarterback position and doesn't want to have to pay $40 million to do it, or doesn't want to have to use a first round pick to do it, he should absolutely be the first phone call that you make this offseason. And that will probably mean that the Steelers either won't do it or they will be priced out of it very quickly. That's my guess. Is some team is probably going to throw maybe an irresponsible amount of money at him, but I wouldn't be surprised, depending on where it is, that it works. I really think that there's a chance that it will, depending on where he lands. So
I agree with you 100%. I think the Steelers should be into it because while it's going to, maybe it is an irresponsible amount of money, I don't imagine it's going to be the mid-market Baker Mayfield money. There's no way anyone could justify
I think it's
that.
it's going to be an inflation adjusted version of the Fields deal, but probably a little bit more because he's shown honestly more flashes at the NFL level already than maybe Fields has overall. But I think it's going to be something in the 2 years, $50-ish million, probably fully first year type of thing. And just to give him a chance to get a starting spot and then hope that he can do the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold thing and get that second contract off that. So that to me is probably what it's going to be. And if that's the case, sign me up for that. Yeah. I'll do it twice on every day and twice on Sundays, as I always like to say. It just feels like the right time. So.
Yeah, it does. And that feels like a sensible reset which is amazing from Not Attack in the chat. We'll wait for him to be a great starter somewhere else for 10 years and then get him for cheap at the end of his career. And boy, isn't that a good way to tie a bow on this episode, because that's what they probably will do. And Mike Tomlin will still be the head.
Yeah, he'll be I remember Malik Willis back in 2022.
Yeah.
We really like that kid. How old is he now? 36? All right, cool. We can sign him now. Man, that one hurt. I'm not going to lie.
It's not fun to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan right now. And
in this exact moment, absolutely not.
and they will
You
easily
could be
have
a Jets fan though.
could
Sorry,
be a Jets fan.
fans today. Gosh,
It
I
could.
kept looking at that score. I'm like, what is going on? And
Yeah. Oh man, Drake May won me a fantasy championship today. That was a
I bet he
beautiful
did.
thing.
I certainly didn't. So I'm glad you did. Oh, man.
Any last thoughts on this game? Like, obviously, there's a lot to talk about leading up to the Ravens game, and we'll try to have as many shows as we can. Obviously, awkward scheduling with so just keep
we'll figure it out.
monitoring the channel, and we'll do as much as we can this week. But any last thoughts on this game before we kind of turn the page and call it on this instant reaction episode?
Honestly, I think again, like they still have a chance to make the playoffs despite such a disappointing performance, despite losing to a 3-12 Browns team.
Mm-hmm.
Despite doing that, they get to play next week for an AFC North title to get to a 10-win season, which is about what I thought they were going to get to. So they could still technically, and of course, the most Steelers fashion possible, none of the ways I thought it would happen, get to what we all know is a 10-7, 9-8 season. They already are. They're guaranteed one of those two at this point. So it's business as usual for this team. But it just, is it a lost season or is it a season that at least has a little bit of a hope left after week 18? That's what it comes down to. And we'll have to watch to find out.
And boy, aren't the stakes high heading into week 18. Are they going to lose in the first round of the playoffs or miss them all together?
It all. Yeah.
Oh,
can't lose the playoffs if you don't make it, Josh. Remember that one.
Nat Attack in the chat. Still Curtain Pod makes it better. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank everyone in the chat. Awesome response and questions and everything. The back and forth was a ton of fun today. This is still a fun show to do, even when the Steelers kind of rip our hearts out a little bit. And this was not a fun game, but we'll always be here to break it down. We'll have the instant reaction pod after that. Winner take AFC North game against the Ravens whenever it is. I feel like it's gonna be the Sunday night game.
I don't want it to be, but we know it's going to be, right?
It's gonna be the Sunday night game.
What else is it gonna be?
So we'll be back after that for an instant reaction pod. I believe we'll have Mark back for that as well.
Hopefully.
So we'll have the
we
full
need him
complement.
to be for that one for sure.
Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be back for that. Keep your eyes peeled to the channel. As I said, we'll try to get as many shows up this week, previewing that game, talking about this game in further detail as we can. So social media and the YouTube page as well to check that out. Until next time, whenever that may be. So long. Have a great week and go Steelers.